Hey junk journaling friends, this is Amanda. This video is how to make a large junk journal part 6, where we'll work on the covers, the inside wallpaper, and make some Frankenstein paper. I want a special thank you to Ruby for her comment. It got me working on these journals again. I had hit a wall with the covers, but I found these frames and I decided to use them. This is how I took it apart. I unscrewed the little attachers and took out the glass and picture, and there's some little foam stickies here, and I'm just tweezing them out, and then I'll remove the rings. And there's a little loop that held the ring because these were two frames that were hung together, like they were attached. So I'm taking off the attachers, but there's holes, and I think I'm going to sew them to the front of the cover. That's what it will look like. So that's all I've gotten as far as the cover. There's some extra, I think those were recollections from Michael's that I might put in the center of them. I don't know. But now I'm going to make the inside of the cover, the wallpaper, and I'm just measuring and getting it the exact size that I want and making sure everything's square and right. Okay, so for these inside covers, I'm using the floral wallpaper that I like. I am using my rotary mats and a metal straight edge ruler and my X-Acto knife to get everything as straight as can be. I'm just using a pencil and just taking the cover and marking it where I want it cut and making sure that the wallpaper doesn't impede the hinge on the inside. And I really want to cover up those corners that I made with the fabric. They're a little rough, so I want to make sure the wallpaper is going to be inside of the book cover corners protectors that I'm going to put on the covers. So it's all sealed up nice and tight. So I might end up trimming these down a little bit. We'll see. And plus, when I sew around the edge of it, I'm going to sew around the edge of it and then glue it because I have more sewing to do to the cover. I don't want it showing on the back. So I'm going to wait to actually attach these inside covers too. But yeah, when I sew around it, I don't know if it's going to make these covers a little smaller. I'm really worried about these corners. Here's my Fiskars straight edge. I'm just making sure the wallpaper is flush against that little edge. So when I cut it, everything's 90 degrees. Everything's super straight. And I think it works out. As I go along, I get all of the lines on the wallpaper centered on each side. This is the first one, so I wasn't that worried about it. I was just worried about getting everything the right size and getting it straight. Once I get into the groove, I make sure both sides kind of match. This one will be a little different. That's okay. And now the sewing. So I'm going to sew around all the edges and give it a texture and a cute look. Now today, all of the sewing is dedicated to Jay Eats Plants. Let me know if that's not pronounced right. Thank you so much for your comment about seeing the sewing. I want all the beginners to know that you can do it. You can sew. Just take your time. Don't get discouraged. You don't have to be perfect. I'll tell you this. I have been sewing for 30 years, and this is the best I have. And it's okay, you know, if I can do it, you can do it. I'm not a professional sewer. I have really no idea what I'm doing still, but I love it. And if you like it, you should do it. Don't worry about being perfect. That's the fun about junk journaling. All the texture and the distressedness of it, it all works out. So there, it's pretty good. That's 30 years right there for me. And now I think this is probably everyone's most wanted part is the Frankenstein paper. My last How to Make a Large Junk Journal series didn't really show that well. I was new to YouTube and I mean, still feel new to YouTube, but I wasn't good at like getting different angles and stuff. So hopefully this shows how to make Frankenstein paper better. Now, I don't know if I made this term up. I believe I did, but I've watched so many YouTubers and so many junk journaling videos. I'm not 100% sure. So if you know someone that started using this before 2014, 2020, I don't know when I started. But I believe it's my word. I don't know why I'm going on and on about this. It doesn't matter. Except that if you know someone that did it before me, please comment below, give them credit. You know, I don't own anything. I'm not copywriting it. I really am being dramatic here. Sorry. Yeah, but I call this Frankenstein paper because I'm sewing through all the paper and it makes huge sheets of paper. You can make paper as large as you want. Just keep attaching pages. So I'm adding just a little bit of my permanent glue stick, not a lot. Half of the time it kind of comes undone, but there's just enough to hold it together to make it easier to sew, but not too much that it gunks up the machine. And I usually make, I take 6 pieces of paper, about the size, and sew them together, and then I'll make another sheet of 6 pages and then sew those 2 sheets together, and you'll see. But yeah, I'm using a zigzag stitch. I find that I like the texture of that. I like the look of it. It holds the papers together. I'm using a very long zigzag stitch so it's not too many holes in the paper. Sewing and paper doesn't always mix that well. I did go do a couple back stitches. It's probably not necessary, but I ended up doing that. And plus, I make these large sheets and then I cut them down to the exact size I need. So half the time I cut through and then end up, you know, adding a little more glue on the ends wherever the cut ends up being. Now here I'm just showing you that sometimes the images on your book papers will not be the kind that you want. You know, one of those images for me was a little too dark, so I switched it out with a different sheet of paper. And I'm also making sure the ripped edges are going to the very outside of the Frankenstein paper. That is just a design choice. You don't have to do that. Maybe you want the straight edge going to the outside. I just like having the ripped edges. I'm going to end up tearing more to make it a perfect size. I'm not worried about the exact size of the paper right now. I'm just making large sheets of paper. So yeah, glue it all together, make sure it's as straight as possible. If it's not, again, this is junk journaling. I'm not trying to make anything perfect. And this is just how I make these. You might want everything perfect. That is okay. I'd go down the middle first, and then I do each edge. And every time I go down, I make sure that it's just for ease that I'm only having one paper on the inside. But again, that's just a personal preference. You don't have to do it like that. I find it just easier, faster. Okay, so once I've made 2 sheets of 6 pages, I'll take those 2 sheets and put them together because they're not quite big enough for a page. And plus it's really dramatic and exciting. And again, I'm putting the torn edges on the outsides, the straight edges inside. Taking just a bit of glue and attaching them so it goes through the sewing machine well. And again, I made 6 sheets of these Frankenstein papers. And I wanted to show you that I rolled up the side that goes underneath the sewing machine arm as if I were like making a blanket or a quilt. And it's actually, once you like pinch the edge right there, and it goes through really well. Super easy. Not a big deal at all. And there you have it. Hope you're following along and having fun making Frankenstein papers. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Bye.